Hi everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Thankful Thursday.
Forgiveness today.
Forgiveness.
Wow.
Oh.
It's a big topic.
I was going to say it's a biggie, isn't it?
And it's a process, isn't it? Like it's such people really struggle with letting go and forgiving, and I think sometimes people think, oh goodness, I need to just forgive someone, and once just I forgive you, boom, that's it. But it's actually a process to get to even that point. Hey, It's not something that just happens because you wake up one day and some people it is.
It's to do with your emotions on the inside, isn't it? So you've kind of often hung on to some things because forgiveness is bound up with, I don't know, non-forgiveness to start with, isn't it? You know, being annoyed and upset and disappointed and all those anger, all those things, and they're almost, I can kind of see them as big red balls gripping onto you, hanging onto you, sort of those sticky balls. I've got a bit of anger here and a bit of, jealousy there and a bit of, upset and hurt and because we often think that forgiveness is out there.
I have to forgive you.
Yeah, I have to forgive, my parents because, they did X, Y, and Z, and, because of X, Y, and Z, I'm now like this. Yeah.
Maybe.
No, not really, though. That's what we're saying, aren't we? Thankful Thursday.
Yeah.
Back to it's us.
Yeah.
The only people that we can change in this world is ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, who do you think the most important person is to forgive then, Christina? Yeah, or me. I know.
I think that's the funniest part. But that's the part of the process, right? Is that as you kind of start working through and winding back, and there's the whole, you should have done this, or you did this to me, and you did it, and you hold on to all those things that are like bringing your energy down, and your life experience down, right?
Yeah.
Then as you start kind of, I guess, picking those balls up and dropping them, then it's actually like, ultimately, you're right, I have to forgive myself for interpreting that experience or making that decision about myself or deciding to hold on to that or whatever it is the ultimate forgiveness in the end.
It's I don't know what it is about forgiveness. It's giving me all these images in my head, but I can just see a tangled ball of string, because you think, actually that bit looks free, I can probably get rid of that little bit, but as you pull this little bit out of the ball, something internally gets kind of tighter, and you really have to go really gently with yourself, because often, I'm quite old now compared with when I was a child, but if I was still hanging on to some things from my childhood, that would be quite deeply buried in me. And it's not because I didn't have things, but I've done a bit of work in the past. But if you're saying, my parents, they were products of their parents and they were doing the best they could, it's time for me to get over the fact that they did X and Y in my life. You might pull that out and you think, I'm pulling that out, but actually what else is it pulling on?
And what's going to come up next? Yeah. Because it's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I like to do things quickly,
Right, I've decided, and Christina's decided, and she's going to do it right now.
Exactly. And I remember, so I did a 4-year body psychotherapy training. And I remember talking to the director of the school, Robert Kirby, wonderful man, and early on, and I was like saying, now those people who've done 4 years of the training, this is before I started, dude, those people that have done 4 years of the training, they're still working through their issues.
What's that about? Shouldn't you be finished?
They should be done by now.
Checked off, close the book, on to the next thing.
And he was so so beautiful in terms of the response he gave me, which was, well, you know, you're peeling back the layers of the onion. And then as I worked through the 4 years, it was very interesting because the first year was really about you getting all your anger and all your like, whatever. And then the second year was, I guess, kind of working through the therapeutic techniques and all of that. And then the third year, they sit you down and they say, right, actually, now it's time for you to take responsibility, stop blaming your parents, and grow up.
Okay.
But, well, they didn't say it in that way. But in terms of, at some point in your life, a huge piece of the puzzle is actually, it's my turn now to take responsibility and really make some choices about who I want to be, how I want to be showing up in the world, and is it worth me still being bitter or hurt or broken because of something that happened many, many, many years ago, or is it time now for me to let that go and just forgive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and there's quite a lot of forgiving going on in there, isn't there?
Yes.
Because you have to forgive yourself for holding on to all that stuff.
Yes.
And then you have to say, whatever your chant is, mine was about my parents were doing the best they could, and from being parented the way they were parented.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my parents probably did some, internal work as well about how they were going to behave in the world and who they were and how their parents were. I mean, just I know my mum did. She definitely didn't want to be like her mum, so that there was, some work going on. So you've forgiven yourself for holding on to it. You've forgiven your parents maybe, but you've forgiven yourself for believing it.
Yeah.
You held on to it, but then you also believed that rubbish.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then there were probably other people in your life who supported that belief, and so you have to forgive them because they were only looking after you the way that you expected to be looked after.
Absolutely, they were holding you in the place that you were and supporting your identity at that time.
And I've only come up with 4, and you've probably got 4 more, and you've probably got 4 more.
Yeah.
So the idea of forgiveness, it seems a bit heavy and hard, actually, just right here, right now.
It does, but also too, if you start like weaving in, like there's a whole lot around the events that happen to us make us who we are, right? And so those events, and some of us go through some really significant trauma, and I am not at all going to say that the trauma like it's going to have impacted you on a significant way, right? And it will, any kind of event. So, some people, the trauma might be mum and dad didn't buy me a BMW when I was 16 and all my friends got one, and I do know someone who did think that. And then other people's trauma will be like really, 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 really bad trauma, and we don't want to minimalize that stuff, right? That at the same time, there's still a point of making peace with that trauma and not having it be the center of your identity. And a lot of times what happens is that your people, out of love for you, will support you from that place rather than encourage you to move through and move beyond. And you can only move through and move beyond when you forgive.
And I don't know about you, but I've certainly had to have some professional help over time, at times, to work like that. And it just brings to mind that I remember one session, and I presume it's asked several times, or often, is that so Audrey, if you were your best friend, what would you be saying to yourself right now? Because so often we feel able to have the energy and the direction to care for someone that's outside of ourselves, and sometimes we need to turn that care and love to the inside, to ourselves, and say, well, actually, if I was a friend, in my instance it was, well, I wouldn't be going to work tomorrow, and I'd be making some other arrangements to have some time to myself for a while to get through this.
Yeah.
You know, and so if any of this is bringing up issues for you, you know, do reach out to the, you know, appropriate person or organisation to help you wherever you want to go to next with this stuff. You know, because it can be, you know, we can be covered in those sticky balls, so it's a whole lot of stuff that has to come apart before we get ready to move on to the next point. But through yoga, we know that being here right now, talking to you, sitting up tall, it's going to bring a tear to my eye. I'm that passionate about it. Breathing well and being in your body right here, right now, we know that yoga is one way of bringing that connection to yourself.
Yes. And so much of it is because we're building the container. Right, we're building this physical container. We're building the ability to control our mind, teaching our body breathing techniques to feel better.
Deep breathing.
Deep breathing.
Empty belly.
Eating differently, purifying the mind and the body. To build the container to hold a bigger life force, to hold a space of letting go. And I think that was also part of the body psychotherapy training, was about building the container. So pulling you out of the collapse, because quite often either in forgiveness, when you are unforgiving of a matter, you've collapsed and your body's kind of weak and needs support.
Isn't it? Because I often say, fight or flight, but there's also freeze and flop as part of that as well. So it's a trauma response, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't get up off the floor. I can't go anywhere.
Yeah, like that has really destroyed me at the core of who I am. And then, but then there's also the other thing, which is that fight, right? I am ready to fight. And, you know, for me, I was probably collapsed underneath it all, but like over top was the...
I'm going to make this right because I can do this.
Yeah, like... but you want... So the huge piece, like that process around forgiveness is starting by just building your physical container, starting by deepening your breath, starting by being willing to see the situation differently, starting by even thinking that what is my piece in what happened here. From a Course in Miracles perspective, we say there is no sin, right? That actually you never sinned, so there was never anything for you to have to forgive. It's just a life experience, and what happens is we interpret the experience
right over the top of it, don't we?
Yeah.
I was a bad person, I got angry, you got angry at me, and then that comes into this ball of string again, tightly tied up, and you're pulling at it, and it's just getting tighter and tighter, where in fact...
exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. And there's so many different practices that we can apply to just prepare ourselves for the moment. And I think the human brain is so tricky because it likes to protect the identity that it knows. It likes to keep us where we are inside of our comfort zone. So for me to forgive someone who done me wrong, like, you know, means I have to be willing to be the person who no longer has that as something to anchor into. Like I have to be willing.
You're actually moving yourself away from that person, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to stand on a checkerboard and you're on a black square, say, and you're actually, I'm going to stand on the white square now.
Yes.
And that whatever was on that black square is just there. And in fact, I'm going to be looking for the pink square and the orange square after that.
Yes.
And that person's was fine for when I needed them. I don't need that person anymore, as in yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And you're ready to see the world, make decisions, and be who you are, leaving that other person or those other feelings behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you just have to be ready to be the new person, right? Because so much of forgiveness is holding us in the past and keeping us attached to someone who's not even in our lives anymore, you know, most of the time. But we haven't let them go energetically when we're still holding on to the unforgiveness. But we're holding ourselves back from moving into a completely new life experience. Like, who would you be if you were no longer trapped in
the anger or
that experience that you haven't forgiven back here?
Yeah.
Woo,
deep today.
Yeah, I know, really deep. Really deep. It's interesting because something's coming up in my mind about. I listen a little bit to Abraham Hicks.
Yep.
And I remember them saying, if someone who you didn't know, right, rang up and said, look, I don't really like you anymore, it's over, we're done, whatever, and you'd never met them before, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah, okay, bye, and that would be it, right?
So just only the conversation and nothing left. I don't have nothing emotionally attached to me from that conversation. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But if someone I really loved
right,
rang me up and said, look, that thing that you did really annoyed me, and that's it for me, that's it, we're over, no more hanging out, no more friends, you know, you're a blah, 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 and hung up the phone, you would feel exactly. Then you would be thinking, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that thing, that person's really bad, they should have da-da-da-da-da, and all of a sudden there's this whole
emotional washing machine.
And most of the time then, if you take it from that perspective, the people that you are holding on most to are the people that you cared the most about, because there was this emotional attachment.
So you can still care for them, can't you? You can still think that they were the best thing out.
Yes.
But you don't have to accept, or you just have to accept what they've said and that's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to attach any emotion to that.
Yeah, you can just be, oh, okay, yeah, thanks, see ya, bye.
Yeah.
Pretend like you never knew them. I mean, obviously there's a process that you have to work through, but if you think about, like, a lot of times people are in a therapeutic situation or whatever, saying, well, you know, mum was overly critical, or whatever, dad was this, or da-da-da-da-da. It only is so significant and so impactful in your identity formation because of the fact that you are so attached to them.
And it really matters to you.
Yes. And it really mattered to you back then, and it really matters to you in the future. And like, so there's the, all those moments, like if you really think about it, sometimes it's the people who you love the most or who you loved the most that you really struggle to let go of. So that forgiveness process is the hardest, because part of not forgiving it is you're not letting them go.
Yeah. Actually, Louise Hay kind of does a letting go by reversing those people's lives. So, for example, it was something that I worked on in a visualization about my dad, actually. And so, you know, you work through this visualization, and then you kind of shrink wrap your dad to this tiny little, you know, person like about this as a 3-year-old or as a really tiny baby, just small enough to fit into your heart.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as a 3-year-old, none of us are full of blame or need to be forgiven for anything, because that's just the way we are.
Yeah. And
actually, if we were to think back to the people that we most struggle with, maybe, and think back to what their childhood was like or what they were like as a 3-year-old, there's nothing to forgive in the end.
Exactly.
And that actually being able to change our thinking, that's really what it is, isn't it? Because we have these almost like scripts, you know, I am this sort of person because this happened to me and that happened to me, and that person said that and that person said that, so I'm this package of a person. But actually you can rip that up, really.
Yeah, you can write a new script every single day. Like in the morning when you wake up, you get to decide, right?
Yeah. And if you start with gratitude, 5 good things that you're grateful for, sets the right mood.
Yeah.
And then today I'm going to
whatever it might be, like set the vision for your future. And I even remember so that, you know, you go to sleep and your mind gets wiped, and then you wake up in the morning and it's a download of everything that annoyed you yesterday that you have to remember. Well, actually, and I actually remember waking up one morning, and I'd had a fight with a boyfriend the night before, and kind of waking up in the morning and my brain had wiped everything, and I was like, now, I know that I'm meant to be pissed off with so-and-so for a reason, but I can't remember why, and I can't remember, and I actually had to search through to download the file, but the thing is, most of the time, right, you know, but I also had the option to not search through and download the file as well, right, you know, but this is the truth. You wake up in the morning and every day is a new day, every moment is a new beginning, right now, you can choose to begin again anew, right, just choosing a new thought. I can gather momentum on this, you know, I'm going to say poor me, but find another word if you want, but you can gather momentum about you did me wrong and hold on to that and download that every morning when you wake up and reinforce it with every waking moment, keep returning to that thought. Or you can wake up and you can say, actually from here on in, my practice is going to be to forgive you and unravel that ball of string and to let it go. And I'm going to practice that until one day, poof, it's gone.
There's no ball of string left.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right, is that it takes so long, right? Because if you've spent 40 years... I
know. You've written that story for 40 years, 365 times 40, beyond my math skills at the moment, but you know, a lot of times you've woken up with that same script.
Yeah, and then reinforced it throughout the day, over and over and over again.
That's right. So actually, you know, getting a journal, writing some things down, having your positive affirmations that you write down, and it is, you know, it does work better if you've actually got a pen and paper or a pencil and paper to actually write those things down. I'm living my life fully and enjoy today, you know? Mm-hmm.
Or even once. Many times, actually.
Yeah.
When I was working through that forgiveness process in my life, and obviously there's a lot of people that I thought I had to forgive, you know, I did write, I remember, because I keep diaries and finding diaries and going, oh goodness, 10 pages of if you blah blah blah, if you blah blah blah. But getting all of that anger out of you and onto the paper, and you know,
it's quite freeing.
I know, and I'm like, oh goodness, I don't feel that way at all anymore. So it worked. It was just 10 pages, or over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. So I wonder whether you've got things that you have thought about while you've been watching us, because we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
And you know, what hints or tips have you got from your life experience about forgiveness and being a new person in the mornings?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's one of the best ways that we can learn is from each other.
Totally.
We learn from each other all the time. It's
we
so good.
Bounce each other's ideas off each other all the time. But it is, I think, if you just remember that forgiveness is a practice, and that you're not going to just wake up. Some people, and I envy those people, I really do, wake up in the morning and they're like, actually today I'm over the fact that Bob hurt me 20 years ago and I've let it go. But I wasn't one of those people. I had to work hard at my forgiveness. I had to journal it out. I had to meditate. I had to go to see therapists. I had to hit pillows, you know, all kinds of things.
And in fact, for me, I had to sometimes revisit the same a similar experience to go, oh, actually, yes, I know. So I have to come out of it again. And then so you're redoing that work, because it's not, you know, people think their life's sort of like this, but actually it's like a ball of string, isn't it?
Yeah.
So karate, you chop yourself out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Get your scissors. But yeah, it is.
Every morning.
It's a practice. It's a practice. Just remind yourself, I really want to forgive this.
Yeah, myself, that other person, that situation, and today I'm going to practice doing that.
Yeah. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you.